everybody. My name is Paulo Blickstein, and I'm an associate professor at Columbia University in New York City in the United States. And in this video, we want to talk to you about why the open schooling methodology, and specifically Make It Open, why they are good options, good choices for learning sciences. And to do so, we introduce you to first how the workforce is changing, how the world is changing, and what kinds of skills and practices are required to match those changes, the challenges of learning science in traditional classroom, and finally we introduce you to Make It Open as a way for schools to prepare children for this kind of future, focusing on specific examples and skills that students would develop while they participate in a Make It Open activity. We all know that the workforce is changing, that the jobs are changing, that the ways to participate in the world are changing, and that the skills taught in schools are not really connected to those. So today, skills such as collaboration, critical thinking, creative thinking, they have become much more important than memorization, than following rules and doing well in tests. And so, for example, in 2021, kids still sit 90% of their time at school in front of a teacher, listening to lectures, reading textbooks, very much like they did in the 19th century. So there is this huge disconnect between what students learn in school and what skills and knowledge they will need in the real world to solve real world challenges. And many reports and lots of research show that even high school graduates, even the students themselves, they feel unprepared for the world and for what's coming in the future. If you look at what professional scientists and researchers do, they spend a lot of time failing, making mistakes, doing experiments. But in schools, if you go to a school lab or a science class, students don't really get the opportunity to experiment and to fail. Instead, what they do is they listen to a teacher, and then the teacher shows them a procedure, and they follow that procedure. So for students that are going through these activities, scientists are professionals with lab coats and thick glasses that never make mistakes, and research is something that you can only do in a lab with beakers and microscopes, and you never do research in the real world. And that's just not how scientists actually operate. That's not what they do. So there is this huge gap between the science that's taught at school and how it's really done in labs and in the real world. School is really a crucial opportunity to prepare students for the jobs of the future and to act in the world of the future. And, it's not news to say that some of those jobs don't even exist yet. So to prepare kids for those jobs, you have to invest in curricula that prepare students to solve real-world problems instead of kind of textbook problems. And we need to move away from traditional models where it's all about memorizing, it's all about standardization, it's all about tests, and instead train students in new practices and skills that can be useful for them in these new contexts, tackling complex projects, collaborating with others, learning together, learning how to guide their own learning. And so some examples of the practices that are really important in scientific activity today are, for example, asking questions and defining problems. That's a core scientific practice. And scientific questions are really different from other types of questions, and that's something students need to learn. When you're dealing with engineering, it's not so much about defining questions, but it's about defining a problem to solve. And there are many other practices of scientists and engineers that are really important. For example, developing and using models, planning and carrying out investigations, analyzing and interpreting data, using mathematical and computational thinking, and also constructing explanations and designing solutions. You might think that that's a sort of a random process, but actually constructing explanations and designing solutions are systematic processes that involves a sequence of actions, defining a problem, generating, testing and providing answers based on the data that you collected. So learning how to engage in those practices is really important. And those are not the only ones. There is also engaging in argument from evidence, obtaining, evaluating, and communicating information. That's also a very important scientific skill. But that's not all. There are also soft skills. For example, teamwork, collaboration, working together towards a common goal, communicating clearly, actively listening to others, respecting diversity, both in terms of your colleagues and of ideas as well. And that all also relates to dealing with uncertainty, having empathy, learning about failure and how it's part of learning, management skills like planning, use of resources and all of that. So when you're engaging in those kinds of activities, you're learning all of those things, and those are part of the Make It Open project. The Make It Open project adopts this concept of open schooling as a pedagogy, as an approach where schools are transformed from the traditional education institutions into community partnerships, and they become agents of community well-being. This is what we have in mind in Make It Open when we propose to bring into the classroom the philosophy, for example, of the maker movement, and to develop a really transformational approach to the teaching and the learning of science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics, or the STEAM disciplines. Make It Open also uses a lot what we call the inquiry-based approach for learning science, and also what we call citizen science, when you make science something that is much more accessible, much more actionable for children. So instead of memorizing concepts, here we focus on the application of concepts by students when they engage in real life issues around their house or around their community. And so to really make the point clear here, we're going to talk about a concrete example of how physics can be taught using the Make It Open approach. Let's imagine taking your students to the playground, and where they're not just going to play, but they will actually learn fundamental principles of physics and Newton's laws. So in this learning scenario that was developed as part of the project, we have 7 different phases. In the first phase, students spend some time watching videos and understanding everyday physics phenomena. In the next phase, they work in groups to formulate research questions and design experiments that can be conducted using different types of playground equipment. And so then they put their research questions, their experiment plans, and their hypotheses into research cards, and they use those cards during the visit to the playground that happens at the next session. And then in the next phase, they actually explore different parts of the playground. So this session begins with an observation of the various elements in and around the playground, such as like benches, waste bins, shaded areas, etc. And then, for example, they examine the types of flooring found in the very different playground areas, etc. And then, only then, they start actually focusing on specific playground equipment. They also have the opportunity to visit a science museum and meet with experts to really understand in a deeper way how to design a playground. And finally, they get a chance to create their very own hypotheses and test them out. So they will create captioned information plaques for a real-world neighborhood playground. They formulate explanations for the physical phenomena that actually occur when people are using the playground equipment. But not only that, they make suggestions of further activities and experiments that people can do when they are in the playground. And in this whole process, students are assisted by experts from various fields. For example, curators of exhibitions, experts in the field of safety, for example. And those experts help them think how their plaques can be installed in a safe and suitable way in the playground. And so then students will experientially learn the principles of physics that can be observed in playgrounds in general and on playground equipment in particular. They, in the following phase, meet with an environmental design expert, they visit science museum, and they apply everything they have learned in this process to design these captioned plaques, including information and ideas for things, activities that can be done using the playground equipment. So these captions, they are then designed and produced together with the Science Museum or other similar kinds of institutions in the city. And they improve the playground experience for the kids, but also they help propagate knowledge and understanding of physics while kids are playing the playground. And so at the end of this learning scenario, there will be a specific playground event, and students of a nearby elementary school will be invited, and with whom the students from the middle school will share their insights from this whole learning process. And throughout this process, they learn all of the practices that I mentioned before. They ask questions, they define problems, they develop and use models, they plan and carry out investigations, but also they learn how to collaborate, how to fail, and they learn a lot of planning skills as well. And so those skills, both the soft and hard skills that they learn in this process, in this close contact with the community, we believe they better support students to become more knowledgeable and more ready for other more advanced activities, but also to tackle real-world complex problems in the future.